It's hard to survive doing that the entire year, and that's why you don't see a lot of teams that do that, and we're certainly not going to be a team that does that. But you're always reading and reacting in the game. You're trying to get through 9 innings with an entire bullpen in a bullpen game, with somebody taking the brunt of the innings and hopefully being good. And so I think there's difference between matchups and different. It's different than bullpen games or openers and trying to. But really, in reality, all you're really trying to do is put your pitchers in a position to get the hitters out the most. And it's there's an art to it because there's some reading of the game and when to extend this pitcher or when to limit another pitcher. And they're fun to manage, but you don't want 162 of them.
The matchups, though, that's based on context of the game versus.
Yeah, so matchup stuff to me is like you're targeting guys that the pitcher's strength, can attack the hitter weakness. Or if it's pinch hitting, your hitter on the bench is a great matchup against the pitcher that guy brings in. So that's just playing your players the best of your ability to try to give them the most chance to have success. Now, some teams are built having more decisions like that than others. I get asked all the time on what my preference is, and my preference is to win. And the only way you win is by using your players the best way you can. And sometimes that means pinch hitting in more years than others, and sometimes that means, running a bullpen game every now and then to give starters an extra day's rest, or strategically to flip a lineup, or how you match up against somebody.
Jay, we haven't talked to you since Austin Meadows was on.
Mm-hmm.
How do you kind of reflect on 2 years with them?
Yeah, number one, I root for the person because that's going to be more important than anything on the field that he did or didn't do. I've stayed in contact with him loosely, just trying to offer support as his manager. And I want him to find peace in his life way more than I want to see anything about his baseball career. He has been very open, and I've appreciated that. My time with him was incredibly emotional. It was personal, and I feel for him because I know the impact he can have on the field, but watching him grow into being a dad and watching him trying to stabilize his mental health is going to override anything that we see on the field. So I love the guy. I think the world of him. I feel for him because it's been a trying couple of years as a Tiger. And when we didn't bring him back, I let him know that just because we might not wear the same uniform, it doesn't mean he doesn't have an ally in me.
Jay, could you talk about the acquisition of Kenta Maeda?
Yeah, I'm excited to get him, and get him on our team. I've watched him from the other side, and I've watched him be really good. I've seen him pitch on the biggest stage in the World Series. I've seen him, dominate a young lineup with his fastball split combo and an occasional slider. So it meant a lot to me that he signed here, trusting that we're trying to win. And he said as much on to the media, and I look forward to having him, in the rotation and being a stable presence as a veteran pitcher who's pitched all over the world, offering some expertise, to our pitching staff. I'm gonna have to polish up my Japanese. I don't know a lot of it, but I'll learn it over the next year.
So you have a chance to talk to?
We text. So Kanekita, who's in our front office, has been the link between us and Kenta as Kenta's back in Japan. We do have a strength coach who traveled over to Japan for a different reason that's going to try to connect with them. So we've been in touch with a lot of the people around him, and we know he's preparing. I've gotten a lot of videos, and I understand what he's doing to prepare himself for the spring.
For the splitter in particular with Kenta, but also with Casey, that pitch used more and more last year compared to years prior, and also very effective. Why do you feel like it's effective, and is it valuable to add two of those in your rotation?
Yeah, so it generates a lot of soft contact or miss, and those are two things that we value a ton. Certainly as managers, you're trying to create as much a swing and miss or as much soft contact as you can get. And when Kenta came back from his injury, he was one of the better pitchers in our league. and the numbers show it. I mean, he was tough to hit. He was tough to center up and put multiple hits together. We have a tremendous outfield defense, so when he does give up fly balls, we feel like we can protect him a little bit. And he's crafty in a complimentary way that he knows how to pitch. He's evolved as an older pitcher, learning how to manipulate the ball to get the ball below the barrel, and that's very useful. Casey's going to learn a lot from him just by watching him.
I want to talk about the sort of maximizing every pitch, right? Bullpen games, short starts, all that. Is there still a role for that sort of old school back of the rotation innings eater in today's game with that emphasis on maximizing?
Yeah, pitchers are still getting paid. They're still getting signed up to come in and start games, and I think there's great value. You have a lot of innings you got to get through a season, and you need a lot of pitchers if any one of them aren't going to take down 180 to 200 innings. And it's amazing how the sport has evolved, where we used to talk it at 200 plus, and then it got to like 200, and then it got to 190, and now it gets to 170, and now 150 is getting paid. So I think there's a strategic portion of this where you're trying to win an individual game and how the decisions we have to make. But the longevity of the season, somebody's got to take down these innings. Otherwise your bullpen's going to be shot and your rotation's going to be tested. Because there's a lot of games you go into with 3 relievers that are down, and your starter needs to go out there and deliver 100-plus pitches and try to get through 6 or 7. That's still valuable in today's game.
Whatever you guys are able to do on the remaining free agent pitcher, how will that impact how you view and how you potentially use guys like Flyer?
Right. Yeah, so we're in a good position with pitching, knock on wood. I mean, you can never have enough, but we have a lot of guys who have been given some opportunities in the last couple of years to fill a lot of roles, whether it's start games or be a bridge or come up out of the bullpen. And I think it's going to create some healthy competition. Whether or not we add more pitching to the mix, we already have a pretty stiff competition to make our team. And I think as we're a maturing team who's trying to get better and trying to factor in, we want to win the Central, you should have good competition across your roster. And I think we're starting to get there with the depth that we have, and then we add bona fide big leaguers to it, all the better. But it is going to create, we're heading towards one of the tougher springs that I think we've had in my time as a Tiger, with the type of competition that we're going to have to, whether it's for innings or at bats, the competition is going to be real.
You mentioned Steven Vogt earlier. What's the biggest advice you would give for any first-year manager?
First off, I love Steven. I would have loved him more if he was out of the AL Central. But I think whether it's him or any first-year manager, it's the faster you can be yourself, the more the players will adapt your personality or your impact or your fingerprints will be all over it. And I think that once you're yourself, you make your best decisions when you are comfortable in your own skin in the position that you're in. One of the hardest things about being a first-year manager is you consume yourself with so much of what the people who are looking at you, what they think of you. And in reality, they probably don't care as much as you wish they cared. They want you to help them be the best version of themselves. So, as you settle into these roles and you're going to, as a first-year manager, the more comfortable you are in the position, the better decisions you're going to make.
Hey, to go back to innings, and you guys coming off of injuries with the rotation, the bullpen, could length be really important this year?
Yeah, so I think we have a number of guys. I mean, as you've seen the way I managed the last couple of years, I mean, there really isn't anybody that shouldn't go 1+. I mean, certainly when the path to a win, you get the back end guys that you try to keep available as many days as you can. But generally speaking, I'm a big believer in position players, and I'm a big believer in relievers having to take down more than one inning. I really think that allows me to make the best decisions possible the most often in the game. And so we train our guys that way. They go in, and if you ask any of our relievers, they're gonna know a 1+ is in there. Some guys are gonna know a 2+ is in there. But when you combine where our rotation is and where our bullpen is, whatever it takes to win that day's game is the most important.
Anything else? Tom, you're talking about the competition this spring. With the prospects coming in that are going to have a pretty good chance, is Young in the same kind of category as Malloy and Keith in terms of just, he's younger. He's not come as far ahead.
Right.
But is he still going to be given the same spring training at bats, the same spring training look?
Yeah. So we're going to be young, but that doesn't mean worse. We're going to have talented young hitters that are all going to be competing for at bats. Jace hasn't played AAA yet, so it's a little unfair to put him in that same category as Colt and Justin. They both have not only played AAA but dominated AAA. Their tests on whether or not they make our team are going to be different. Now, we haven't talked to them. They don't even know they're coming to big league camp yet, except that they maybe read the depth charts and the roster projection that Evan did. But I think that they are very much in the mix, and they've got a lot of work to do to make our team. Jace is going to get plenty of opportunity if he gets invited to big league camp to showcase what he can do. But the work will not be done for any of these guys. They're not finished products, whether they factor in or not, or whether they make our team or not. I am excited to see them with all of this attention on them. It's one thing to be on a prospect list. It's another to be sort of a feature part of a competition, trying to make a major league roster for the first time. Last year's big league camp was awesome for them, for Justin and Colt in specific. But I don't think anybody had an expectation that they were going to factor in. This year could be a little bit different, and I'm sure they'll react positively.
For Colt and Justin, if they are going to make that roster, are they going to need to do it as multi-position options, or could you see a scenario in which they get the go?
Yeah, doesn't everybody? Almost everybody on our team except for Torque and Javy, and even, guys, Parker's going to play center, when he plays. And of course the two catchers, even though the catchers could play multiple positions because it's the best athletes on the field. They're going to need to factor in on both sides of the ball, and not only just play defense, but play defense well and play in multiple positions.
Speaking of Javy, what's been the level of communication?
Yeah. Javy's been good. I texted back and forth with him on his birthday. He's done his work. He's sent workout videos, and I've seen some of the work that he's doing. We're going to try to get together at some point. He's been spending time in multiple places, and he's putting the work in. Obviously, I want to check in with him more aggressively as we get, past these winter meetings into the holidays, and then the sprint to the spring comes. But I know he's putting the work in. I know our guys have been in touch with him, and we're going to continue to nudge him in the direction of more consistency.
How important is it to put him in the right mindset going into spring training?
Yeah, so I don't think the mindset for him is a problem. I think I think staying with the routines that he's going to build is going to be really critical. I think there's in the off season, everybody's in a good place. Everybody's working hard. Because failure's not involved. Like, there's no feedback that gives these guys negative thoughts or negative vibes. There's no punch outs. There's no 0 for 10s. There's no errors. There's no booing. There's no ramifications for anything other than I feel really good when I go get my workout on, and I feel like I got a good day's work in. So I think the true test will be staying disciplined for all our players. We'll be staying disciplined as you reintroduce the difficulty of the game, and then the feedback that comes with that, positively and negatively.
You mentioned the art of making in-game decisions. What have you learned about when to go off script or when to trust?
Yeah, your feel. No, it's a great question, because I don't think you can manage games simply on your stomach, and I don't think you can manage games simply on a script. And the guys that can blend it are the best. They're also the toughest guys to manage against. And so I think you have to combine what you see with what you know. And I can study all I want, but there's always going to be added information that comes throughout the day, whether it's how somebody feels, what's going on at home, what's their health like, what's their recovery been like, what's their nutrition been like, what's their confidence level at. And that information that goes between when you study and when you compete is added in. Now I don't have to talk about it to you guys, or I don't have to disclose all that. But when I'm making decisions in game, it's never solely about what's on the paper, and it's never solely about what I think or what I hope. It's always a combination and a blend. And you can be new school, old school. I watched Boch do it in the World Series to win a World Series. He's one of the best blended managers in the history of the game, even though people like to call him old school. And I think that's that's an aspirational type of a person that you want to be in this seat.
Do you have a gut hunch that you made that you remember that you knew was off going?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I listened. So yesterday I got a chance to sit in the back row and listen to Jim Leland talk, and him talking about a decision that he made years and years and years ago, like in such a way that like I could relate. Like I know exactly what he's talking about, where you make a decision and you wonder if it was the right decision for the rest of your life. I mean, I have a million of those. And I think a lot of times we judge ourselves by whether the move worked out or not, 99% of the times. But the ones that eat at you are the ones where you're not focused on the result, but you know the process that went into making the decision. And those are hard. And those are hard to get over, and they're hard to convince yourself that you made the right decision if it didn't work out. But I got a few of those that are still deep in my soul that I'm not ready to disclose yet.
Thank you, AJ.
Yeah, good. It might be, but.